So thanks everyone for joining today. So this is a road safety audit for the intersection of Pearl Street at School Street in Stoughton. I'll in a moment I'll talk about give just a background update on how this project came about and the umbrella program that this RSA falls under. And right now, I'd like to start with some introductions. So my name is Bill McNulty. I'm a principal transportation planner with Old Colony Planning Council. I'll also introduce the staff that we have online. So we have Kyle Mowat. He's he's one of our transportation planners. Ray Garino. He's another principal transportation planner here. We have Charlie Kilmer. He's our assistant director and also the transportation program manager. We have Mary Waldron on the line. She's our executive director.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, Mary. We have Sean Bailey, until recently lifelong Stoughton resident, one of our planners. He's out in the field and he's actually has a live video link and be able to provide any updates and answer any questions that anyone has as it pertains to anything in the field. So that is our staff online, and so I'll go down the list here, and once I call on you, if you could just give a introduction on your name and who you represent. So Detective O'Connor, I see you on the line.
Yes, sir. Sergeant O'Connor with the Stoughton Police Department. I am the safety officer for the department.
Thank you. John Charbonneau?
Yeah, John Charbonneau, town planner in Stoughton.
Thank you. Craig?
Good morning, Craig Forsfall, the assistant town engineer.
Thanks, Craig. Anna?
Good morning, everyone. Anna Phil with Mass DOT Traffic and Safety.
Thank you, Anna. Tom Fitzgerald.
Hey, good morning, Tom Fitzgerald, Public Works Superintendent, Stoughton.
Thank you, Tom. Bianca.
Bianca Marshall, Mass DOT District 5 Traffic.
Thank you. Dakota.
Good morning. I'm Dakota Del Senor with Mass DOT Traffic and Safety.
Thank you, Dakota. Erin.
Good morning. I'm Erin O'Connor, and I'm representing the office of Rep. Galvin, who represents part of Stoughton.
Thank you. Happy to have you here. Thank you. Keisha.
Morning. I'm Keisha from Senator Tim Maltese office. He also represents Stoughton in the Massachusetts Senate.
Thank you. Happy to have you here. Jason.
Good morning, Jason Walters, MassDOT District 5 Projects Reviewer.
Thanks, Jason. Is there anyone on the line that I missed? Thanks, and thanks for bearing with me there. Sometimes the attendee list kind of jumps around on me, so it takes a little getting used to keeping track on who's here.
Excuse me, Bill. Sorry, John Carbonell. I didn't get your title. My thing broke up.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, I'm the town planner for the town of Stoughton.
Okay, thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Okay, so thanks everyone. Again, thanks for being here. So like I said, this is a road safety audit. It's being prepared under the Old Colony Federal Fiscal Year 2021 Unified Planning Work Program, Task 3300. And that's looking at regional road safety audits at multiple locations throughout the region. This is just an agenda on how things will go today. So we just went through welcome and introductions, and I'll start going through some of the background data, and we'll have a brief introduction to that, and then we'll start to look at some of the analysis and start to identify any issues that we see with this intersection, but both us at OCPC, and also we welcome your comments as well. And at the end, we'll also be identifying potential countermeasures or improvements that can be made at this location particularly interested in, improvements that can be implemented in a fairly short term and relatively low cost, but also
Hey,
entertaining,
Maura, good morning.
and also entertaining higher cost options such as signalization of the intersection. So everything's on the table, and there's no wrong answer, and we welcome a robust discussion. So this is just an overview of what this program is. So this past federal fiscal year, the one that we're in right now, we introduced this program in our Unified Planning Work Program to look at high crash locations throughout the region. We are particularly interested in locations that have not been studied or haven't been studied in a while. Internally, we use we have a safety management system where we look at highway safety across the region. We use a methodology called the equivalent to property damage only methodology for evaluating intersections in the region. And basically, it gives a weighted value to crash histories at individual locations. So, for example, a crash that results only in property damage when no one got hurt, that would receive a value of 1. And then a crash that resulted in personal injury, but no fatal injuries, that would receive a value of 5. And a crash that resulted in a fatal injury would result in a value of 10. And then over a 3-year period, all those values are summed together, and then we're able to rank intersections based on that. So it does incorporate crash frequency, but it also incorporates severity of crashes.
Bill, can I just jump in for 1 second?
Sure.
I'm sorry. So just to make a point, like Mass DOT, due to like a request from Federal Highway, we changed the methodology a little bit for the EPDO calculation, and the goal was to focus mostly on locations that have fatal and serious injuries. So now we assign a 21 point for intersections with fatal and injury crashes, and then 1 point to the intersections with just property damage only. So that way we feel that it aligns with our goal towards Vision Zero and 0 fatalities and serious injuries in the state. So I just wanted to jump in and make you aware of that.
Okay, that's awesome. Thanks for letting me know that. I wasn't aware of that, and I think that makes a lot of sense. And I can definitely work with you all offline, and perhaps incorporate that in our own methodology as well going forward. We haven't finalized. We have a draft for most hazardous through the end of 2020, but we haven't finalized it, so we could always kind of update our methodology.
Right, and that being said, this location with this methodology also is a high crash location, so it did not change the outcome of like this location being a good location to be looked at. I just wanted to it's just a little detail.
Thank you. So yeah, so the idea is to look at high crash locations with a history of history of serious injuries, and the objective is to identify potential improvements that can be made at this location. Again, lower cost options are going to be implemented fairly quickly, or larger capital improvements that would probably most likely have to go through the design process and be programmed. Usually has to be programmed on the regional transportation improvement program. Not always. Sometimes towns and cities go their own path and do a capital improvement on their own, but usually they opt for the tip route. So this is a Locus Map that shows the location of the region. I apologize. The color scheme on the map is kind of light and kind of blends in with everything else, but the general. So this location, if you're not that familiar with it, I mean, I know that everyone in Stoughton is. It's located just to the north of Stoughton Center. It's kind of right in between Stoughton Center and the school complex just to the north. So this road does get a lot of traffic from that school complex. It's also a principal arterial. It connects from Stoughton Center up ultimately up into Canton. So it does kind of roughly parallels Route 138 and makes those connections into Canton. This is a similar map, just shows the surrounding land use. So up in here, just to the north of the intersection, you see that school complex with the high school. Just off the map to the west, there's a elementary school in that direction. So it's a very busy area. It's very densely developed. It's very urban in nature. So just some background data. So Pearl Street, as I mentioned, it is functionally classified as a principal arterial. It's also under local jurisdiction, just as School Street is. We have a traffic data that we have on records a little dated for Pearl Streets from 2012. But at that time there were 7,400 vehicles per day using Pearl Street. So, it carries a decent amount of traffic. The 85th percentile at that time was 38 miles per hour. This was recorded north of the intersection, kind of in between the intersection and Central Street, which is to the north. So it was 38 miles per hour is a little bit high for that roadway. The speed limit is 30. And the percent of heavy vehicles was just over 4%. So not a lot of trucks using these roadways. Same with School Street down the bottom, you see 4.4%. School Street data was a little more recent. That was 3 years ago, 2018. At that time, there were 7,100 vehicles using this road. And the 85th percentile speed on School Street is 31 miles per hour. So right in line with the speed limit. There's not a lot of opportunity to speed on School Street, to be honest with you. It's a relatively short roadway that runs between Route 138 and Route 27. It has this four-way stopped intersection right in the middle of it. There's a railroad crossing. So there's not a lot of opportunity to pick up a lot of excessive speed on School Street. This is a view of the intersection from the looking from the west. So this is the eastbound approach. You can see, and we'll talk about more about this, but it is an urban environment. The intersection geometry is tight. Trucks that do go through here, they have some trouble negotiating those turns if they're making a turn. It is a very tight turning radius on all approaches. And you can see the sides that do have crosswalks. The sides that have sidewalks, there are crosswalks connecting those sidewalks. And a lot of pedestrians do travel through here, as it is. You have that school to the north, and you have Stoughton Center right nearby, and you also have the commuter rail station, which also generates a lot of pedestrian traffic.
Bill, sorry, I don't mean to keep interrupting.
But,
oh
no, absolutely, please.
Just looking at that photo, so I can see the crosswalk to the east of the road connects the two sidewalks, but there's nothing on the southwest corner, right? I don't see a ramp or sidewalks or anything like that. So that crosswalk just kind of goes to nothing. I'm just curious.
There is a sidewalk over there.
On Pearl Street?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that photograph doesn't show it great, but yeah, there is a sidewalk there. So,
yes, if you would like to pan to my view, I'm standing next to the intersection, showing all the crosswalks and all of the sidewalks that are connected to it that Bill mentioned. Which direction of Pearl Street were you referring?
It looks like it would be Pearl Street on the on the west side of Pearl Street. So
going towards downtown or away from downtown?
Going, yeah, if you're coming south on Broad Street, going towards downtown.
Okay, yeah, there is, let me get over there. There is a sidewalk on the west side of the road that goes up to the high school and past it.
Yeah, no, I see it now. Thank you so much. It was just that angle looked like there wasn't, and I apologize. I'm not very familiar with the area.
Oh, no, that's perfectly fine. I believe that picture was taken on School Street and you couldn't see the sidewalk from that angle. So I just wanted to make sure I could show you on my live feed.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So this is another picture of the intersection from the corner. This picture does show that one of those corners does appear to have some. It could be deterioration from either ponding or stormwater flow. Might also be some, as I mentioned, the turning radius is tight, so any trucks or trailers might be clipping that corner and kind of wearing out or washing out the earth underneath the corner there. But there is some significant deterioration out there. And then there are some mobility impediments, a utility pole right in the middle of the receiving area for the crosswalk. So that would be an issue for anyone in the mobility assisted device. I'm sorry. Someone have a comment? Okay. So this graphic just shows that ranking system that I was talking about earlier on, how we rank the intersections in our region with the based on the EPDO. This page is Stoughton specific, so this just has all the Stoughton intersections that we have in our system. So this intersection does rank as the 6th most hazardous in Stoughton. It's kind of right up there with the really heavy intersections on the state number routes. There is a fairly high crash frequency here, and it's also in the in our top 100 region-wide. That first column in the table there shows how it ranks overall in the region. So it is in our top 100. So this is the collision diagram. So this looked at it's just mentioned, typically we would look at a three-year crash history, but 2020 being what it was, we included 2017. So it's actually a 4-year crash history that we're looking at here at the collision diagram. But in that 4 years, there were 47 crashes. That's a lot. 12 of them resulted in injury. So about a quarter of the crashes that are occurring at this location are resulting in injury. You can see in the diagram angled collisions, by far the most common type of collision, but there's also quite a few roadway departure crashes at this location as well. At least in terms of other intersections we've looked at, there seemed to be a fairly high amount of crashes where a vehicle left the roadway and struck either a structure or an object off the road. But we looked at we broke it down we looked at those angled collisions, and they kind of all over the place. I mean, the most common collision between movements is between the northbound vehicles heading from Stoughton Center up towards the school complex, colliding with vehicles traveling east on School Street. About 26% of all the crashes were that. And then you can see it kind of falls along there, but there wasn't one that really jumped besides that northbound and eastbound collision type. There wasn't one type of crash that just kind of jumped out at us and we're like, whoa, that's happening a lot. It does appear to be all over the place. Kind of almost like, equal opportunity collision opportunity here. It is fairly densely developed in that area. There's at a four-way stop, we wouldn't be too as concerned about sight distances as we would be at a two-way stop intersection, because the presumption is vehicles are going to stop at those stop signs. But sight distance is fairly limited from a lot of those approaches, just because of the land use and utility poles and tree canopies. This wouldn't necessarily be much of a factor in the angled collisions, but two of the approaches have significant curves on the approach. So coming from the north, as you come south on Pearl Street, there's a big sweeping curve, and you come up on the intersection relatively quickly. There is adequate stop. We measured the stopping distance. There is a adequate stopping distance, but you don't have as much of a straight line view of the intersection as you do on other approaches. Same coming from the east on School Street westbound. Again, there's a curve there. You don't have a straight line view of the intersection, so that might have been a factor in some of the rear end collisions. Probably it's just, that's just speculation, because again, it's not like the curve is right there. You do have some sight distance of the intersection before even coming through those curves. The next few charts just kind of break down some of the some of the crash statistics here. So the time of the month that the crashes occurred, again, a little bit of peak there in May and June. May and July, but generally kind of scattered throughout the year. For whatever reason, there seems to be a little bit of a peak on Tuesdays. It's probably just a statistical anomaly. It's probably nothing really causing crashes on Tuesday, just how the data panned out. The time of day, there is a peak in crash occurrence from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. So it's a little bit before the typical evening commute, and that's probably it's probably directly it corresponds with the school traffic. That would be our assumption. A lot of the crashes are during the day, but there were a quarter of the crashes that occurred at night, and that's a couple charts down. Overwhelmingly angled collisions occurring at this location, but a few crashes of other collision types. Like I said, about a quarter of the crashes occurring here at nighttime. There is a lot of, I haven't been at the intersection at night, but just being out there during the day and looking up, there's a lot of street lighting there. So I presume that's well lit. It's just, so not sure what the main contributing factor there. The crashes that are happening in the dark. But it's just something to keep in mind. The most of the crashes occurred in clear weather. However, about 17% of the crash reports that we got indicated that the road surface at the time was wet. It noted that in one of those pictures, there seemed to be potentially some drainage issues on one of the corners. Not sure if skidding or hydroplaning is an issue here. again, it's not a lot of high speeds going through the intersection. But so I wouldn't expect to be a lot of hydroplaning, but that might be a factor to look at why about slightly less than 1/5 of the crashes are occurring on wet pavement. And then in terms of driver ages, again, it's fairly well distributed across the age spectrum. A little bit of a peak there for the 20 to 30-year-old demographic, but otherwise it's fairly well distributed across the age spectrum. So that's just some background. I can definitely go back to a slide if you wish to look at something in more detail, but this is a time that we kind of open it up to open discussion and just identify any issues that you see here. And I can definitely contribute our own thoughts, but I'd like to open it up to everyone and see what your thoughts on this location are.
Like the DPW I think last year, maybe even 2 years ago, installed the solar powered stop signs, so it has flashing lights as well. Not to mention there's the flashing red light above. I think that has helped, but obviously it hasn't solved any issues because we're still having accidents. But I definitely think it has helped somewhat having those flashing stop signs.
Officer O'Connor, I noticed that your building is really close to the intersection. I'm sure you guys drive through this all the time. What would you say is the most egregious issue here? What seems to be the issue at this intersection?
Honestly, the only thing I can think of is inattention, because between going anywhere or going home for lunch or something like that, I mean, there's probably 3 times a week where I just see a car, usually coming from the center going north, just blow right through everything, right in the middle of the intersection. And you can tell they don't even know it's there because they're not even going slow. They're going through at 35 miles an hour.
All right.
I don't know how else to make it, more visible with flashing overhead light, flashing stop signs.
Any comment on the high crash numbers for Tuesday?
No, that I agree. It's got to be just an anomaly.
Got it.
The time frame doesn't surprise me. The 2 to 4 range, because that place is jammed from 2 until probably 6 with school getting out, and then into the late afternoon and early afternoon and late afternoon rush hour times.
Are 4 stops common in Stoughton? Just because it seemed like when I was looking at the crash narratives, a lot of people seem to be confused on how to navigate. Then it seemed like, is it my turn? Is it their turn? And then they just kind of like went at the same time. And so I just don't know if they're just unfamiliar with this type of control, or if there's anything to that.
I'm sure that's part of the problem. I mean, that and impatience as well, because that's how a lot of them happen is, people failing to yield the right of way when they should be, but they just decide, well, I'm going to go. And that's when the collisions happen. I mean, I've seen them. I've seen close calls. I've almost been in them myself. I go through that intersection at a minimum of 2 times a day. It's usually much more than that. Honestly, I mean, it boggles my mind. I mean, it doesn't, being out there all the time, but I mean, it really is just got to be more inattention and not having the patience that you're supposed to. Is what I see out there. I don't think that the lighting's fine. The sight distance is fine coming around that bend. There is one business on one of the corners, but that is an insurance company, so it doesn't generate a ton of traffic coming in and out of there causing any problems.
Would you say,
Sorry, go ahead.
sorry, would you say that having maybe high schoolers driving and some driver inexperience might contribute to any of this, or is just not a factor?
Honestly, based on the stats, I would say that's generally not a factor because the peak is 21 to 29 operators. I mean, not that I have any proof of this, but I mean, cell phones and things like that, I think that's just part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah, one thing that we noticed, none of these approaches have well, actually I shouldn't say none. The School Street approach coming from the east, coming from 138 does have a faded stop ahead sign. Otherwise, the other approaches don't have any intersection ahead signs, no stop ahead signs. So that's one thing that could be installed on all the approaches. It might have some, might yield some safety improvement. It would be one more thing that catches drivers' attention as they're approaching the intersection.
And not that I think that's what's creating the issue at all, but I don't think they have the 4-way or all-way placards underneath the stop to indicate that it's a 4-way stop. I mean,
No,
that's just minor, but
no, there are none on any of the stop signs.
Yeah, I mean, that could be an issue. I mean, there are stop bars there, so people, even if they don't know it's a 4-way stop, they should be noticing the stop bars on the intersecting streets. But maybe people are just not aware that there's a the other side is stopping. I don't know, but I think honestly, I mean, I think it's a issue with 4-way stops in the Commonwealth in general. People are impatient. There's some educational issues. They're not. They don't know the rules of 4-way stop. They don't know who has the right of way. And even if they do, then you add in the impatience factor and the aggressive factor. And so even if somebody knows very well that the person to the right of them has the right of way, they're still going to try to jump it because their time is more valuable than everyone else's. So I think, I think impatience is definitely an issue here, as well as as Sergeant O'Connor said, distraction.
Bill, if I may, gentlemen, I'd like to recognize Senator Walter Timilty for joining the meeting. Welcome, Senator.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
Bill, I had a few issues, just a few things that I noted during my site visit. I just wanted, of the existing conditions I wanted to run down.
Okay.
And you touched on these as well. The lack of sidewalk on that northwest side, and there was also the poor drainage on, I think it was the northeast side. Tom Fitzgerald, does the town have an issue with drainage, in terms of like flooding? I wasn't sure if it was a curbing issue or the catch basin location. If you could speak on that.
I'm not aware of any drainage issues there. That looks like it was more of like a being worn out or from a truck or somebody cutting the corner. As far as flooding the intersection, we don't have any issues.
Yeah, it just, I think it probably was just a lack of curb. The whole corner of the sidewalk was just a puddle when I went there. So just
Excuse
something else to note, Bill. Also, there was a 30 mile per hour speed limit sign that was out there. Just the sign height was, less than the 7 feet off the ground. So just another thing to note. And the obvious no ADA accommodations for the 4 legs. That's all I got.
Thanks, Jason. Yeah, those are, it's pretty much what we noted in our own site visits as well. In terms of clear zones or crash barriers, there's not a lot there, but again, you wouldn't necessarily expect that in a urban environment. One of the properties does have a a raised wall. I'd say off the top of my head, it's not a very high wall. It's probably about 1.5 feet, but it is it would stop a vehicle from striking the property unless they're really flying. There is curbing, that would provide some impediment, but pavement was generally in fair condition. Nothing that really jumped out at us. Lighting, it's well lit. Signage, again, those advanced intersection signs could help. Stop signs, they're the signs are in good condition. They are missing those 4-way placards. Striping, it's in good shape. Nothing that we really noted. And again, environmental, the only thing we noted was that indication of maybe some ponding on the corner there.
One question for Craig. I noticed that there was the bike, share the lane, sharrows markings on the pavement. Do you see a lot of bike activity on the road?
I do. In this area, I do, because there's a ton of kids coming to and from the schools, using the facilities, the fields, and going through. And then there's across from the school, there's an apartment complex where there are a lot of kids. So you see a lot of biking going on up and down that area, mostly with kids, but still a lot of biking being done in that area.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd agree with Jim on that one. Thanks, Jim.
I was wondering if this is used as a cut through by, heavy traffic from trucks trying to bypass to get to Route 138. Seemed like there was a lot of crashes that involved trucks.
So generally, I would say no. I mean, there are a couple of spots on the other side of the intersection of School and Canton, off of School, that have trucks going to them, like a small convenience store. There was a warehouse, but I think that's being converted into condos or something now. So I don't know if the trucks are still going there, but really not too many unless they're going to the businesses on Rose Street across from the police department. They come in and out of that intersection sometimes, but most of it's staying on 138 or 27. It's not really as a cut through so much, but there is some businesses that have trucks coming in and out of them.
Okay, thank you.
Any you wanted to note Senator Timothy and also Representative Galvin's office on the line. Do you all have any specific comments about this location, or not to put you on the spot or anything? I just wanted to give you an opportunity to both the opportunity to speak and provide any comment that you might have. Okay. All right. So yeah, no. Again, you can provide. Yeah, and this goes for anyone as well. You can provide comments. Written as well. So again, thanks everyone for those observations. So now, this is where we'd identify any potential improvements, both those short-term and lower-cost improvements that could be implemented in relatively quick fashion, or longer-term capital improvements such as signalization. I noted that the putting advanced signage on the approaches could help. Upgrading the stop signs just with that four-way placard. Again, that might help a little bit. Anyone have any other suggestions that could be implemented here?
I think the obvious ones are, investigate, full traffic signal. I think that the right of way and even the existing structures may be too close to the intersection for a roundabout, but like you said, nothing's off the table. But in addition to the traffic signal, addressing the pedestrians and cyclists, adding full sidewalks along all four legs on both sides, and also look into a side path. I thought a side path may be helpful, and it's generally just a wider sidewalk when it comes down to it, but it's wide enough to accommodate pedestrians and cyclists. And then in addition to that, the normal ADA upgrades that we would make for the actual intersection corners, curb ramps and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Senator Timilty, then I saw that you raised your hand.
Yes, and thank you very much. Briefly, my apologies. A moment ago, I had to step away from my screen just to take a call.
Oh, no problem.
Regarding we're starting session at 11 in the informal. But I just wanted to quite simply, first of all, thank you. And also recognize my district director, Keisha Adakwar, is on the line with us. But quite simply, I just want to, how can I be helpful to the town of Stoughton, obviously, in making this work smoothly, and obviously come out with the safest possible situation for our commuters and everybody who traverses the road, and of course the residents of the town. By no means do I need an answer right here and now. But please, hello there, Jim. Please use us as a resource, and my office and myself.
Thank you.
Whatever we can do to be helpful.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Bill, I just on the mention of the traffic signal, and Craig or Tom can probably speak better to this than I can, but I think there are plans for school in Washington and school in Canton to become signalized at some point in the future as well. So they'd have to be able to be connected and work in sync with them.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely. I think of those three, not to speak for the town, but just my own knowledge, I think school in Canton is the highest priority and the one most likely to happen first. But like you said, Washington School is a location that's been identified for signalization, and so yeah, ultimately, if all three locations were going to be signalized, they would have be coordinated with each other. They also have to be coordinated, tied in with the railroad crossing as well.
I'd like just to suggest a few things. Like, it seems that a lot of the issues on this location are also, besides geometric, it has to do with driver behavior. So I'd like to suggest maybe doing some educational campaigns in the areas on, you know, how to navigate how to navigate a four-way sign. So, you know, maybe in the center of the town or whenever possible to do something like that. I also like to mention that Sergeant O'Connor talked about inattention and people looking at the cell phones, you know, and now that we have the hands-free law in Massachusetts, I know it's a tight intersection, so I'm not sure how how well you could do enforcement at this particular location, but even maybe if it's, you know, an effort region-wide, you know, hopefully as, you know, this becomes more and more prevalent, you know, people who hopefully.
About this intersection for us is one of the businesses on the corner has a camera that covers the intersection. So it helps us figure out what actually goes on during these collisions. And they're pretty good about letting us access the video to see what happened.
Oh, that's helpful. I noticed that Vivian Ortiz has joined us from Safe Routes to School. So yeah, I'll, you know, let her comment on anything with Safe Routes to School related. I will note that so high schools aren't generally Safe Routes to School eligible schools, but this location probably is in the coverage area for the middle school. If you wanted to comment on.
Sure. Sorry that I came on a little bit late. I was in another meeting, but
No
so for those of you that aren't familiar, the Safe Routes to School program is a statewide program that encourages and engages with students and communities to make it a more walkable and bikeable area. So I will definitely like to speak to the officer on here to see what it is that we might be able to do in conjunction. I have worked with some of the schools in the past in Stoughton, but because of COVID, things were just, you know, approaching them or whatever. But anything that I can do or any help that you all can lend me to do pedestrian safety, to do some bike safety with the students in the community, that information then also gets turned over to the parents, because the way that when I'm teaching, I always like to be able to share and ask them to share that with their families. So when it comes to pedestrian safety and bike safety, it's not something that we just do only with the students, and we do bike rodeos and things like that. So any help that y'all can give me to work with Stoughton so that we can make it more walkable and bikeable for everyone would be great. So I'll go ahead and put my information in the chat, and then I'm going to be popping into these every once in a while and seeing how it is that we can help out with the students. Okay.
Thank you. Definitely appreciate you joining in this one, but our other road safety audits as well. It's a big help.
I was wondering one more, like, it seems that at least in one of the intersections, it is a speed might be a little bit of an issue. So, you know, I was wondering, you know, if looking at a speed table or something at this location, so it makes it more prominent and people will have to really come to a stop as they approach it. If, you know, just as an alternative, probably.
Yeah, that's another potential improvement. Both of those crosswalks could be converted to raised crosswalks, which would you know, force the driver to stop. As Sergeant Connor noted, there are some drivers, just whether it's complete distraction or other factors, that they are, you know, blowing through that intersection at a fairly, you know, as if there's no stop sign at all. They're going through there at 30, 35 miles per hour with never slowing down. So, you know, the presence of a speed table would definitely help prevent that. Might not completely stop it, but it would definitely catch somebody's attention the first time they try to go through there and hit that.
So one thing, just regarding the speed limit sign that's there is, years and years ago, I mean, probably 10, 12 years ago, I don't even remember. I realized that there was supposed to be a speed limit sign for Pearl Street there, and there wasn't one. It technically by permit starts farther back on Pearl Street, closer to Stoughton Center. But we elected to put it just after the intersection due to the amount of traffic coming off of School Street. I wonder if maybe adding one back on Pearl Street where it should be would be beneficial as well, to give people an idea that it is 30. My only concern with that is I don't know how much of a difference it will make, just because of the amount of vehicles that park along the side of Pearl Street closer to Stoughton Center may just have it blend in with everything else.
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned you have that street parking, and you do, you always want to be concerned. That you do always want to be paying attention to potential sign clutter. You don't want to have lost signs, but then again, speed limit is a regulatory sign, so it would receive a higher priority over other signage. I think putting again, it's a low cost improvement. You could just put a sign out there. It's it could help.
Hi, this is Bianca from District 5. So technically, the speed limit sign should be placed at the start of each new speed zone. And it's perfectly fine to have additional signs within the speed zone just to, remind drivers. But I would recommend including the sign where it's supposed to be at the start of that zone.
Good call. Any other additional comments? All right. So next steps going from here. So I'm going to develop a draft report that kind of summarizes everything we talked about today, as well as includes that background data that I introduced earlier on. And typically my turnaround for a draft report is about a week. So I would say by the end of next Monday, I'd be sending out a draft report to all of you to review, and then I give a week or so to provide comments back to me before I eventually finalize it. This is an open process, so if tomorrow or Thursday or whatever you think of something else that wasn't brought up today, absolutely, by all means, forward it to me, and it'll be included in the comments. I don't have my contact information. I somehow lost my contact information sheet, but you all know my email address. You got this invitation from me, but my email is W as in William McNulty @ocpcrpa.org. And again, I'll be contacting you with the draft. I'd like to thank everyone that participated today. I'd like to thank the Stoughton officials. Senator Timothy, thank you for joining in. Representative Galvin's office, thank you. And this is a important process. We do have safety performance targets that we set each year for reducing the number of serious injuries and fatalities region-wide on our highway network. And these road safety audits are an important component to addressing injuries and fatalities and ultimately reaching our performance targets. And your participation is very valuable in that. So thank you. So unless there's any other comments, I'll adjourn this road safety audit. I think we're right on time. Any other comments? All right. Thanks, everyone. I appreciate it. By all means, reach out to me, anyone here at OCPC, if you have additional comments or questions about this process. And thank you.